The world of TV has been in something of a precarious state in recent years. With the rise of streaming and the decline of linear TV, it's become ever less clear what the metric for success is, and in turn, much harder to predict if a given show will be cancelled or renewed. And so even seemingly safe popular shows aren't really immune to the scythe of cancellation. So with that in mind, I'm Ellie for Whatculture, and let's take a look at the following TV shows which just got cancelled. Starting with Yellowjackets. At the start of October, Paramount announced that its hit mystery thriller series Yellowjackets was set to conclude after its upcoming 4th season. This proved to be a somewhat surprising announcement, considering that Yellowjackets was initially said to have a 5-season plan. And as recently as 2023, co-creator Ashley Lyle confirmed that this plan was still firmly on track. The show's recent 3rd season also became its most watched yet, seemingly signaling that it was safe and would most likely make it to 5, even with the general fan response to the show slipping considerably in its 2nd and especially 3rd seasons. Some have pointed to the Paramount Skydance merger and associated regime changes as possibly being behind the show's premature conclusion. But at least this pre-announced ending will give the creators time to provide fans with a concrete climax to the story. Whether a single season is enough runway to tie off the many messy narrative strands left flailing around, however, remains to be seen. But here's hoping.
Do you also ever find yourself locked in the existential crisis of wanting to watch the 1985 classic Witness starring Harrison Ford and Kelly McGillis, but you don't know where to begin? Because same. Me from the future? You dummy. If you wanted to watch the 1985 classic Witness directed by Peter Weir, all you had to do was sign up to Paramount Plus using the link in the video description. This limited time offer means it's just $2.99 for 2 months. That's $5 off the Essential tier and $10 off Paramount Plus with Showtime, which includes shows like Twin Peaks and Dexter: Original Sin. Witness and Twin Peaks? Sounds like the perfect remedy for those cold winter nights we're having. I'm gonna go sign up right now and ignore this grave violation of the laws of time and space. Sounds like a plan.
Countdown. The enormous popularity of Supernatural and The Boys star Jensen Ackles made it easy to believe that his fandom would follow him pretty much anywhere, and that his new Amazon crime series Countdown would be an easy hit. But Countdown quickly slid its way down Amazon Prime Video's top 10 TV shows, likely aided by mixed to negative reviews, with most critics dismissing it as dull and cliched. So it wasn't a total surprise when Amazon announced Countdown's cancellation in early October, which Ackles called a bummer, citing how much he enjoyed working on the series with the cast and crew. For many outside of the actor's immediate fandom, though, this cancellation may well have been the first they'd actually heard of the show, which seemed to receive a bit of a soft marketing push during its single-season run. Either way, there just wasn't much enthusiasm for Countdown, even from those who did watch it. Dexter: Original Sin. The seemingly insatiable nature of the Dexter fandom ensured that despite the IP's continual stumbles, the recent prequel series Dexter: Original Sin became Showtime's most streamed premiere ever, and performed well enough throughout its run that Paramount renewed it for a 2nd season back in April. However, almost 5 months later, at the end of August, the network changed tack, announcing that the planned season 2 actually wouldn't be going ahead. This was said to be a strategic decision following the Paramount Skydance merger, to focus on the Dexter sequel series Dexter Resurrection starring Michael C. Hall, which posted stronger viewing figures than Original Sin and has itself been renewed for a 2nd season. Dexter showrunner Clyde Phillips minced no words in criticizing the network's handling of the unrenewal, which left him forced to inform the writers and cast himself of the unexpected cancellation. Phillips added that he had several years of material mapped out for Original Sin, which will now presumably never see the light of day. Goosebumps. A new take on R.L. Stine's legendary Goosebumps children's horror novels should have been a lucrative slam dunk for Disney. But things didn't quite work out that way. Though some fans criticised the 1st season for ditching the expected anthology format and telling a serialized season-long story, it at least performed well on Disney Plus by releasing during 2023's spooky season. For reasons that will only be clear to Disney executives, though, the 2nd season was puzzlingly dropped all at once this past January, while receiving bafflingly little promotion from the Mouse House itself. And so it wasn't exactly a massive shock when Disney confirmed Goosebumps cancellation in August. Though no reason was given, it's incredibly easy to believe that the viewership fell off a cliff with the little effort Disney made to make an event out of the second season. However, series producer Sony Pictures Television is intending to shop the series around and consider other prospects for more televisual Goosebumps content. So regardless of whether this iteration of Goosebumps is resurrected or not, the IP probably won't stay on ice for too long. The Waterfront. The Waterfront is a crime drama series from screen creator Kevin Williamson, which starred the likes of Holt McCallany, Melissa Benoist, Maria Bello, and Topher Grace, and landed on Netflix back in June. Though the show received mixed reviews, it nevertheless opened at the #1 spot on release weekend and impressively repeated #1 placement 3 weeks in a row, while also managing to stay in Netflix's English language top 10 TV shows for 5 weeks. Surprising it was then when Netflix confirmed that The Waterfront wouldn't be returning for a second season at the end of August. And according to Deadline, this was motivated by both the show's viewership and its completion rate. In recent years, much has been written about the importance of completion rates in determining whether Netflix renews a show or not. But because this figure isn't publicly available, we're generally left to either speculate or, as is the case with The Waterfront, rely on insider sources. Williamson certainly didn't need long to bounce back though, as he was already deep in post-production on Scream 7 at the time of the cancellation, which will be the first film in the legendary horror series that he's directing. Creepshow. Back in 2019, horror streaming service Shudder revived the classic horror anthology movie franchise Creepshow as a TV series. And though the general reception was wildly mixed throughout its run, the low-budget production and enthusiastic nature of the horror fandom seemingly kept it chugging along. Creepshow's 4th season was released all at once for viewers to binge at their own leisure in October 2023, after which word went suspiciously quiet on the prospect of a 5th season. Shudder basically went completely radio silent on the matter throughout 2024 and most of 2025, as fans clamoured for answers, until Shudder sources finally confirmed to Variety back in September that the show wouldn't be returning for season 5. The source added that the show was only ever planned for a 4-season run, a claim that's not entirely easy to believe, but Shudder did at least cushion the heartbreak by announcing that a box set containing all 4 seasons would release in November. Butterfly. Butterfly is a spy thriller based on the graphic novel of the same name, which launched on Amazon back in August. The series stars the ever-great Daniel Day Kim as a former spy whose shadowy past starts catching up with him. Though reviews were firmly mixed, it nevertheless landed the #1 spot on Amazon Prime Video's US Top 10 and #2 globally on release week, seeming to suggest that the show was a solid performer with subscribers. But in early October, the streamer confirmed that they wouldn't be moving forward with a second season. And while no official reason was given, it's reasonable to assume that the viewership just wasn't high enough relative to the cost of producing the show, which was filmed on location in South Korea. It's an especially frustrating outcome for fans though, given that the first season ended on quite the agonizing cliffhanger that will now never be resolved. And just like that, though Sex and the City sequel series and Just Like That became HBO Max's most watched series debut in 2021, viewership for season 2 declined by 59%, and the most recent 3rd season kept dropping further week on week. It certainly didn't help that the show's writing throughout its 2nd and 3rd seasons was widely criticized by fans, especially in the 3rd. But even so, Sex and the City seemed to be enough of a marquee brand for HBO that it was basically beyond cancellation. But evidently not, as less than 2 weeks before season 3 was set to conclude, HBO Max confirmed that this would mark the end of the series. The abrupt nature of the announcement, so abrupt in fact that some of the cast hadn't yet found out, seemed to suggest the show had been cancelled, yet HBO framed it as an ending for the sake of saving face. Considering the messy and deeply unsatisfying nature of that final episode, it really didn't feel like much of an ending at all. It'll certainly be interesting to see if this really is the end for Carrie and her pals, or whether HBO will try again with another revival a little while later. Fubar. Netflix's spy comedy series Fubar debuted in the summer of 2023. And while hardly great, it spent 5 weeks in the streamer's top 10 after amassing 11 million views during its release weekend. But the series' second season was rather unceremoniously dumped with little fanfare back in June. And with the consensus being that it failed to rectify the first season's slapdash writing and brutal pacing, it was embraced far less enthusiastically. Fubar Season 2 lasted just 3 weeks in the top 10 after landing just 2.2 million views in its launch weekend, marking an 80% drop in premiere viewership. The utter lack of discourse, good or bad, surrounding the show made it clear that it just failed to strike much of a chord with anyone. And so it was hardly surprising that Netflix quietly cancelled it at the end of August. When there's so much high-quality TV out there, aggressively mediocre, personality-devoid content like this just doesn't cut it, even with Arnie front and center. And finally, Catfish the TV show. The global influence of 2010's documentary Catfish is something just about nobody could have seen coming. Despite being produced for a mere $30,000, it popularized the term catfishing in the worldwide lexicon and proved successful enough to launch its own MTV reality series spin-off. Though there's a good chance you've heard of Catfish the TV show, did you have any idea it was even still a thing? The show sees brothers Rel and Neve Schulman attempt to help people deduce the true identity of their online romance. And after premiering way back in 2012, it shockingly had enough juice to produce more than 240 episodes over 9 seasons. Season 9 concluded in July 2024, but it wasn't until this past September that MTV confirmed Catfish had finally been cancelled. The reaction from many was simply disbelief that the show clung to life for so long, while also spawning 5 separate international editions. MTV have allowed the Schulmans to shop the show to other networks, so Catfish may well return in some form. But even if not, it's had quite the run, let's be honest.